beg you, on behalf of the whole Nigerians, I am tired.
I am very, very angry right now. Yesterday, I did 11 gig. And it has finished this morning.
Is MTN stealing from everyone, or is it just me?
Meanwhile, Mobile Money Fintech Limited has signaled a renewed crackdown on agents involved in suspected fraudulent activities.
We need to protect our consumers, we need to protect the financial ecosystem, and it's our responsibility as agent network to do that.
April 15th, 2026, a date most Nigerians will never remember, but millions felt it. A woman in Lagos, her phone beeps. Out of airtime, her child is sick. She needs to call her sister for help. She dialed the same code she's been using for years, 303#. A man in Kano, his data runs out in the middle of a client's call. No Wi-Fi around. He dials 303#. A student in Enugu, last day submit an assignment. No data, no airtime. She dials *303#. And instead of the familiar message, something like, you qualify for 200 naira credit, they all saw the same thing. Service unavailable. No warning, no explanation, no transition, just silent. For over a decade, XtraTime, or as people call it, borrow me credit, had been a lifeline, not luxury, a survivor too. And then, overnight, it was gone. Now, if you ask average Nigeria why MTN killed it, they'd tell you the same thing. Greed. They don't care. The economy is hard, and they made it harder. And honestly, that's what I thought too. But I was wrong. Because the real story why XtraTime died is not about greed. It's about something much more interesting. It's about a quiet war between MTN and the Nigerian government. A war that most people didn't even know was happening. A war that MTN lost. And by the time you understand what really happened, you will never look at borrow me credit the same way again. I'm Cormac, and this is CormacExplains. Let me take you on a journey. To understand why XtraTime died, you first have to understand how it was born. Picture Nigeria in 2012. Smartphones were becoming more common, but data was expensive. Airtime was something you thought about, and running out at the wrong moment, that could cost you a lot. MTN was already the biggest telecom in Nigeria, but they had a problem. Competitors like Glo and Airtel were eating into the market share with cheaper rates. People were buying multiple SIM cards, switching between networks to save money. MTN needed a way to keep people loyal, to make sure that when you ran out of airtime, you didn't just switch to another network, you stayed. And that's when someone at MTN had an idea. What if they gave you airtime when you ran out? Not as a gift, as a loan, a small one, just enough to make that call, send that message, and buy that data. And you'd pay it automatically on your next recharge. No paperwork, no interest rates staring at you in the face, just help. They called it XtraTime, but within months, Nigeria had given it a new name, borrow me credit, and it worked. It worked better than anyone expected, because here's the thing about survival tools. Once you have one, you can't imagine a life without it. Within 2 years, millions of Nigerians were using XtraTime regularly, not once in a while, every week, sometimes every day. You'd run out, you just dial *303#. You get 200 naira. Recharge the next day, you pay back 220. Simple, seamless, and very helpful. Or it seemed. Let me tell you what MTN didn't put in the advertisement. That 200 naira loan you just got, you paid back 220 naira. That 20 naira difference, that's a service fee of 10%. Borrow 500 naira, you pay back 550 naira, 10% again. You borrow 1000 naira, pay back 1150, 15% on some plans. Now, 10% sounds small, 20 naira sounds like nothing. But let me show you the math they didn't want you to do. Assuming you borrow 500 naira every 3 days for a month, that's 10 borrowing cycle. Each time you pay 10% fee, 50 naira. 10 cycle times 50 naira equals to 500 naira fee per month. On a 500 naira loan that you repay within days, now multiply that by 10 million users. That is 5 billion in fees every single month. And remember, 50 million Nigerians are using MTN from a service they called Help. But here's where it gets worse. If you convert that 10% over a 3-day loan to an annual interest rate, that's over 1,000%. More than any bank, more than any loan app, more than any illegal loan sharks. XtraTime wasn't a kindness, it was the most profitable loan product in Nigeria that nobody knew it was a loan. And for years, nobody asked questions because it was convenient, because it was there when you needed it, because 20 naira didn't feel like anything. But someone was watching, and that someone was about to change everything. In 2025, a quiet government agency called the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, began looking into digital lending in Nigeria. Their job was simple: protect consumers from exploitation. And when they look at XtraTime, they saw something that concerned them. Here was a service that gave credit instantly, charged fees that amounted to high interest, operated at a massive scale, automatically deduct repayments, and disclosed almost nothing to their users. In their view, this wasn't a telecom feature, this was a loan, a digital loan, and a digital loan needed regulation. So they introduced something called didn't.But regulations. The rules were simple. If you're a digital lender, you must register with FCCPC, get a formal license, disclose interest rates clearly, follow ethical debt collection practices, protect customer data. And here is where it gets interesting. The FCCPC looked at XtraTime and said, you are a digital lender, you need a license. MTN had a choice. Option A, register, get a license, disclose that 1,000% annual interest rate on every USSD screen. Tell every customer exactly how much they were paying in fees. Option B, shut it down. What would you do if you are MTN? We will come back to that, but first, I need to tell you something else happening at the same time. Something most people don't know about, because while the FCCPC was circling XtraTime, they were also going after MTN as well.
Now, here's what I need to correct what you might have heard. You might have seen claims online that the FCCPC took MTN to court in February 2026 over Momo. You might have seen a case numbers, and I searched for that case. It does not appear in any public record from this period. Here's what actually happened. On April 14, 2026, just one day before XtraTime was suspended, a group called the Wireless Application Service Provider Association of Nigeria, WASP, filed an urgent case at the Federal High Court in Lagos. But WASP didn't sue MTN. They sued the FCCPC. Their argument: the FCCPC was overstepping its authority. They said digital lending rules that involve telecom infrastructure should be regulated by the Nigerian Communication Commission, not the FCCPC. And on April 15, 2026, the same day XtraTime went dark, Justice Ambrose issued an interim injunction. He temporarily stopped the FCCPC from enforcing key parts of the didn't regulation. The case was adjourned to April 27, 2026. Now, here's the twist that everyone missed, and this is the key to understanding the whole story. The court said FCCPC stop enforcing rules for now, but MTN suspended XtraTime anyway, even after the court ruling, even though the rules were temporarily frozen. Why? That is the question nobody has answered, and I think I know why. Think about what just happened. A court tells the regulator, stop enforcing rules. A rational company would say, great, we will keep operating until the legal fight is over. But MTN did the opposite. They shut down immediately. Why would a company voluntarily kill a service that was making them billions right after a court gave them a lifeline? Here's my theory. MTN did the maths, and the maths told them XtraTime was not their future. Look at the numbers. In 2023, MTN Nigeria lost over 137 billion naira. In 2024, it got worse, a 400.4 billion naira loss. But by the first quarter of 2025, something had changed. MTN posted a 133.7 billion naira profit. Their fintech revenue jumped to 57.9%. Where was that growth coming from? Airtime lending, XtraTime, strong, but also Momo wallet deposit up to nearly 5-folds. Fintech revenue 83 billion naira in just the first half of the 2025. Do you see it? The money isn't just in the loans anymore, it's in the deposits. A customer who keeps money in Momo is far more valuable than a customer who borrows from XtraTime. Why? Because stored money generates float value, money sitting in their system that they can invest, transaction fees on every transfer, ecosystem lock-in. Once your money is there, you stay. XtraTime gave them fees from borrowing. Momo gives them your entire savings to play with. So when the FCCPC forced MTN to choose between complying, which meant disclosing everything, adding local partners, sharing control, or shutting down, MTN chose to shut down. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. The service you love didn't die because MTN couldn't save it. It died because MTN didn't want to. Let me show you the evidence. In Q2 2025, MTN Nigeria's fintech revenue jumped to 36 billion naira and up to 57.9% from the year before. And the company specifically said this growth was driven largely by its entire lending product, which was XtraTime. XtraTime was their golden goose. But here's the thing about golden G's. They attracted attention. The FCCPC was watching, and they weren't just watching XtraTime. They were watching the entire digital lending space. Over 100 loans are facing potential ban or delisting for failing to comply with the new rules. MTN had two choices. Choice A, comply with the didn't regulations. That means disclose the true cost of borrowing, which many estimate put to over 1000% annualized. 2. Bring in at least 2 Nigerian-owned intermediaries to run the service. 3. Submit to FCCPC oversight and approval for all partnerships. 4. Open themselves to potential customer lawsuits. Then, choice B, shut down XtraTime temporarily. Blame the government. Wait for the legal battle between WASP and FCCPC to play out and focus all their energy on Momo, where the real future is. They choose B. And here's the proof they didn't want you to see. Even as they suspended XtraTime, MTN CEO Katoria was talking about a rural penetration strategy to expand Momo into underserved areas. They were hiring more agents, onboarding more merchants, building the infrastructure for a digital bank. XtraTime was a product of the past. Momo is the product of the future. Now, here's the question that kept me up at night. If MTN wanted to kill XtraTime anyway, why did they call it temporarily? Why did they say they were suspending the service, not ending it? Because they might bring it back. But if they do, it won't be the same. Here's what the FCCPC approved lender list looked like after MTN pulled out. By April 23, 2026, the FCCPC had declared 5 companies to provide airtime and data lending. Total Team Nigeria Limited. 2. Rain Interactive Media CLC Limited. 3. Mode NG Application Limited. 4. Crowd Interactive Associates Limited. 5. Coverage Broadband Limited. Notice something. These are not telecom companies, they are the third-party lenders. The FCCPC rules were designed to break the telecom monopoly on airtime lending, to force them to work with local Nigerian companies. If XtraTime comes back, it won't be MTN running the show anymore. It will be MTN partnering with one of these FCCPC approved lenders, sharing revenue and sharing control. That's what MTN was trying to avoid. And that's why they shut down instead of complying. But here's another twist, and this one might surprise you. The same week MTN suspended XtraTime, they reported that their Momo agent network had grown by nearly 50%. Merchants onboarding rose by 23.6%. They didn't slow down, they accelerated. XtraTime was never the main event, it was always the opening act. Now that you know the truth, now that you know MTN let XtraTime die because they didn't want to share control, now that you know they'd rather have your deposit than your loan, will you dial *303# if it returns, or will you find another way? Because here's the thing about regulation, it doesn't just kill services, it gives you information you had never had before, and the information changes decision. And that's why MTN didn't want to comply, not because they are evil, but because an informed customer is a less profitable customer. If XtraTime comes back with the clear disclosure of fees, maybe displayed on every USSD screen, you might think twice before borrowing 500 naira, and different choice means less profit. Now let me ask you something else. What about the millions of Nigerians who had no other options? The market women, the bike riders, the students, the small traders who used XtraTime because there was literally no alternative. What happens to them? That's the hidden cost that didn't show up on MTN balance sheet. The cost of FCCPC's regulation didn't account for. A service that exploited you is still a service you need. And when you take it away without replacement, you haven't protected anyone. You have just left them stranded. Let me quickly summarize where we are because we have covered a lot. 1. XtraTime wasn't just help. It was a high-fee loan product that generated billions for MTN. 2. The FCCPC introduced Beyond regulation in July 2025 to bring digital lending under control. 3. The rules required telecoms to work with Nigerians' own intermediaries, something MTN wasn't willing to do. 4. On April 14, 2026, WASP sued the FCCPC, arguing that Commission had overstepped its authority. 5. A court temporarily halted enforcement on April 15th, but MTN suspended XtraTime anyway. 6. MTN chose to kill the service rather than to comply because their future is in Momo deposit, not XtraTime loans. 7. XtraTime might return, but if it does, it will likely be through third-party lenders, not MTN alone. And 8. The real loser in all of this, the millions of Nigerians who had no other option. This is how system actually works. They don't announce themselves loudly, they shift quietly. And by the time you notice, the structure has already changed. I'm Cormac, and this is CormacExplains. If you want more breakdowns like this, fuel pricing, bank charges, electricity, the real story behind Nigerian economy, hit subscribe and comment below. Did you use XtraTime? Would you use it again if it returned? I read every comment and your experiences might become the next video. See you next time.